A story now developing in the last few minutes. The International Criminal Court at The Hague has issued arrest warrants for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant. Among the things that the ICC is saying it is issuing these warrants for is it's alleged that Netanyahu, Gallant used starvation as a tool of war. Just reading some commentary coming through from the ICC. The ICC saying it has reasonable grounds to believe they oversaw attacks on the civilian population. Well, let's go straight now to The Hague and join our correspondent Anna Holligan and also Yolande Knell, who's in Jerusalem. Anna, to you first of all, tell us a little bit more then about the reasoning that the International Criminal Court is giving for issuing these arrest warrants.
I'm still studying the details. We've just got them in the last few minutes. So the ICC says the chamber considered that this is the pre-trial chamber at the International Criminal Court, considered that there are reasonable grounds to believe that both individuals, Benjamin Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant, both individuals intentionally and knowingly deprive the civilian population in Gaza of objects indispensable to their survival, including food, water, medicine and medical supplies, as well as fuel and electricity. It goes on to say that their role was critical, their failure to facilitate relief by all means at their disposal. Also, it goes on, the chamber also found reasonable grounds to believe that no clear military need other justification under international humanitarian law could be identified for the restrictions placed on access for humanitarian relief operations. Beyond this, just reading a little bit further down, finally the chamber assessed that there are reasonable grounds to believe that Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Gallant bear criminal responsibility as civilian superiors for the war crime of intentionally directing attacks against the civilian population of Gaza. In this regard, the chamber found that the material provided by the prosecution only allowed to make findings on 2 incidents. So these arrest warrants, actually, initially, they were kept secret, but one of the reasons why the ICC has released them now, they say, is to because they believe similar conduct may be ongoing, and they consider it in the interests of victims and their families that they are made aware of the warrant's existence. Apologies for reading most of that from the ICC. These details are just coming in. We're still digesting them here in The Hague, but this is a significant, considerable role, and it's more than just writing. These arrest warrants will have an impact because, of course, every member of the ICC, more than 100 countries, are now obliged to arrest both of these individuals, Benjamin Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant, if they set foot on their territory. That is one of the requirements of countries signed up to the ICC. So this will have an impact on potentially the movement of both of these individuals.
Anna, thank you very much for that. Appreciate you making your way through what is a lot of detailed text, Anna, as you look at that statement from the International Criminal Court. And we're going to cross now to Jerusalem. Our correspondent Yolande Knell is there. We're also seeing this is from the former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, who says the ICC arrest warrants are a mark of shame for the ICC. I am suspecting, Yolande, that it's probably way too early to get any feedback or any commentary reaction from there in Jerusalem. If you have some, please do tell us. The other thing I want to ask you about, of course, is the news from hospital officials in the north of Gaza saying many people have been killed in the latest Israeli airstrikes, and what is going on there with regards to attempts at a rescue operation.
Yeah, I mean, starting off with the International Criminal Court, we haven't had an official response yet from the Israeli Prime Minister. We understand that he's currently meeting the US Special Envoy Amos Hochstein, who's come here from Beirut to talk about a ceasefire in Lebanon, a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. But we can go back to May and get some indication from then of the Prime Minister's likely response, because when the news that was put out by the chief prosecutor that he had applied for these arrest warrants, Mr. Netanyahu back then called this an outrageous decision. He said that it was a moral outrage of historic proportions, that it would cast an everlasting mark of shame on the International Criminal Court. He said that Mr. Khan created a twisted and false moral equivalence between the leaders of Israel and the henchmen of Hamas, because you'll remember as well that the International Criminal Court was going to look at arrest warrants for 3 senior figures in Hamas, the masterminds of the 7th of October attacks. So that was Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Deif, the head of the military wing, and Ismail Haniyeh, the overall leader of Hamas. Now, all 3 of those men are since been killed, as far as we know. The only person who still appears with an arrest warrant out for him now is Mohammed Deif, the head of the military wing. And that appears to be because the court acknowledges that his death has been reported. We understood from the Israeli military that it used DNA evidence to assess that he was killed, but there is not the same amount of evidence in the public domain, it would seem, for his killing as for the other 2 men.
Yolande, thank you very much for that update. Yolande Nell in Jerusalem.